So what expertise do you have to really be able to help a client with a commercial workout? I think there are 4 areas that you have to know. You have to know banking, you have to know the law, you have to know finance, and you have to know real estate. So let me take those one at a time. So let's do banking. What amazes me is I've seen clients go out there and prepare a defense and go and talk to their bank and have down what they think is all the information, the facts that they need in terms of working it out with the bank. But what they've failed to do is understand the bank themselves. And we think that that's an essential thing that you need to do to have a successful workout. First of all, you need to understand the rules and the regulations that that bank operates under so that you can understand whether they're following their own rules and regulations. Let's talk about documentation. You need to be able to go through the documentation and see that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And if that's not the case, then if you're building a wall of defense for the client, then that could be one of the bricks in the wall of defense. And so you need to understand the bank itself, you need to understand the documentation, and you need to understand the health of the bank. In this environment, there are 8,000 banks out there, and a good percentage of them are not healthy. They don't have the ability to take a hit. And so if you're dealing with one of these banks, we call them the zombie banks, there's a different strategy than dealing with a healthy bank. With a healthy bank, you know, you can go in there and sit down, and they can afford, they may have already written the loan down. And if not, they can afford to write the loan down if you present the information correctly. But with a zombie bank, no matter what you say, most of the time, they can't afford to take the hit, so they're not going to. We had a situation with a client, and it was actually in La Jolla. It was with La Jolla Bank. And we were telling the client that La Jolla Bank was a zombie bank and that they probably wouldn't negotiate with us because they couldn't take a hit. And we're actually having the consultation with the client on a Friday morning. And we said to the client, we didn't know how long it was going to take before either La Jolla Bank got recapitalized or got taken over by the government. But what we didn't realize as we was having that conversation with the client was at that very moment, the government was in there taking over that bank that day. And so we had a different conversation with the client on the Monday. We said there's an entirely different strategy now because they've been taken over by a healthy bank, and so we can approach it differently. So coming back again, you need to understand your bank and how to approach your bank. Secondly, you need to understand the law. And in 3 particular areas. You need to understand the law in relation to personal guarantees, you need to understand the law in relation to bankruptcy, and you need to understand the law in relation to litigation. Let's take those one at a time. How do you defend a client in the area of personal guarantees? There are 4 different defenses, and you need to understand those defenses and see which one or a combination of those apply for that particular client and be able to use that to the client's advantage. Secondly, in terms of bankruptcy, we feel like that bankruptcy is a tool that can be used in the negotiation process. We hope that we don't have to go into bankruptcy or put the asset into bankruptcy or the client into bankruptcy because it's an expensive and time-consuming proposition. But if the institution is not going to cooperate and the asset is going to be lost, then we want to put it into bankruptcy. And there are lots of points of leverage in a bankruptcy if it's set up correctly. But we've also seen it where even with bankruptcy attorneys, the clients have not been set up correctly and haven't been able to take advantage of the bankruptcy like they could have or they should have. So you need to understand how to defend on the personal guarantees. You need to understand bankruptcy. And thirdly, you need to understand litigation. Litigation in 2 areas. You need to be able to understand contract disputes and see where the opportunity is there for the clients in terms of litigation. And secondly, in terms of torts. In this country, there's an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. And this applies for the bank in terms of dealing with the client. The bank has to deal with the client in good faith and they have to deal fairly. And if we can go and show that the bank hasn't dealt in good faith and hasn't dealt fairly, then the bank can be liable. And there's lots of case history out there to support that. And so, once again, to review, in terms of the law, you need to understand personal guarantees, how to defend those. You need to understand how to take advantage of the opportunity for bankruptcy and also litigation. The third thing you need to understand is real estate. Real estate in terms of the macro level, the micro level, and in terms of valuation. When we take, let's say we take a client on and it's a broken condo project. We need to be able to walk in there, or to have somebody walk in there and look what it takes to finish that project. You need to understand in terms of valuation. You need to be able to look at it and say, what's it worth now as it stands? What would it cost to finish it? What would it be worth at the end of that? And to be able to build that out. And so having a solid background in terms of real estate is very important. And the fourth area that you need to have a solid understanding of is finance, and particularly modeling. Modeling the asset itself. I just mentioned in terms of the real estate. I gave you the example on that condo. You need to be able to model those situations out. Model for the bank how what the property is worth now. Let's say model what it's worth when you if you finished it off. Model what it's worth if you finished it off and just leased it out and waited till the market came back, and then model it out if you finished it off and sold it at that particular point in time. And then in terms of finance, you have to bring all the other pieces into play at the same time, because it's not the asset as a standalone that matters. It's how it relates to the individual who owns that. And so model their personal financial situation and be able to model the tax consequences of each scenario that you're putting together. And so understanding finance and how to model that and put it together is very critical in terms of a workout. So once again, in summary, we feel like the four critical elements that you need to be professional in terms of both knowledge and experience is banking, the law, real estate, and finance, and putting all of those together for a client in terms of a workout.